So a few things you said, what I'm really impressed with, or what really makes me feel good, is when that crash happened in 2008, how you interpreted that. Because I know a lot of people that did the exact opposite with their mindset, and it did ruin them, and they never really emotionally recovered from that. It really set a standard in how they thought. And actually, like stepping back as a holistic practitioner, looking at their life moving on, some of them, recovered financially, and, it didn't bury them, but their quality of life, their health it's not that they're sick or something's really bad, but it changed. So the whole mindset thing, that really resonates with me. When it came to like your Lyme disease, you did see a doctor, but in reading your book, there was a lot of stuff that you did. You darn near self-diagnosed, and then from that point on, self figured it out. Like you tried you were your best and greatest experiment. Everything you talk about in the book, you've done and you've tried it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty impressive. And I'm like, how do you do that without freaking out? Bottom line, how do you do that without freaking out? Like going, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And I'm not saying you didn't do it like for a couple of days. you immersed in something. And how could you do that without any certainty that it was going to work out?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a few factors there. Faith and hope, and intelligently choosing the experiments that you're going to run are really important. And over this journey, I had sort of, when I was young, written off my parents. I was baptized Catholic, and I sort of went to non-denominational churches growing up. But being someone who's always valued critical thinking, I had sort of written off religion and that practice as a way to like control society. And I think that was a big mistake, because when I started kind of getting sick and experimenting and bringing myself back, I realized the importance of having faith. And like, that old saying, like, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. So I believed that I could get better, and that there were tools out there that would help assist that journey. I just needed to find them. Now, that's coupled with looking for things that offer asymmetric risk, which means like low or no downside, but very high potential upside.
Right.
And it's sort of like having this willingness to try things, to discard what doesn't work, to keep what does work, and have the consistency to build upon that foundation. Where I think where a lot of us can sabotage our success is we start and stop so many things that we never really establish a consistent routine and practice upon which we could build. So we're just like constantly starting over. But if your mindset is, all right, I'm going to create a morning routine, a night routine. I'm going to find the things that help me to feel as good as I possibly could feel based on where I'm at right now. And then, grow from there. That's where we can, reach different spheres of energy and mental performance and happiness. And
right. So we tend to, I think, though, can be very guilty of like instantly want to fix something. Like, we get a diagnosis, we get a pill, we get a prescription, or whatever that is, lose weight quick, get smarter faster, cure things very quickly. But how important do you feel it is, like, for people to take a step back and actually spend some time in self-awareness to really understand what feels differently, what isn't working, what is going wrong, to sort of narrow the field down. So when you start to look for the resources and help and ways to improve your quality of life, you're starting at least with like the short list. Like at least you can go in a direction.
I think it's really important to have a practice that builds awareness and connection with your body and your spirit. And, meditation is one of those practices. And that's something that's been really helpful for me. It's not I was just talking about this yesterday. It's not something that comes easily to me. I find a lot of resistance around sitting down and meditating. I'm very type A.
Yeah, I have a hard time with it.
Yeah.
Oh.
And my belief is that our willingness to do hard things is often the rate limiting factor on our progress.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people want the progress. I think everyone does. Everyone wishes for a better life. And if you ask someone, do you want a better body? Do you want to feel like your mind is sharper? Do you want more happiness? They're going to say yes. But then if you say, all right, well, I want you to do a fasted workout 6 days a week. And I want all of your showers to be cold showers. And I want you to meditate for at least 5 minutes every single day. You're going to have a lot of drop off just in those in those recommendations, and that's the tip of the iceberg. For some of the practices that are required, especially if someone's dealing with chronic illness, mystery illness, joint pain, digestive issues. The key here is that you have to be willing to do hard things, and that turns a lot of people off. Part of the reason that people buy program after program is because many programs are selling a lie. And that is that these things can come easily. And I think the awareness that you mentioned that can come from meditation, I believe that's one of the best ways to develop it. That awareness is what allows us to look and say, okay, this desire, this chasing of shortcuts isn't working. I need to at least be willing to have an experimental period where I do the hard things and see if that is what elicits the results that have been eluding me.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Everything you can't go into any social media platform and not find thousands of, in 5 days, this result. Buy this program in 48 hours, get this result. And we're all so being busy with stuff that, like you say, the stops and the starts. Like we're a lot of us are leading very busy lives, but I kind of wonder, what are we really being busy with?
Yeah.
And so that those 5 day, 7 day, 3 day programs, they fit into a busy life that's kind of not really going somewhere specific with that desired. Tony Robbins talks about the desired outcome. What's the desired outcome?
What I've observed that's missing from, if someone's listening to this and they've been a little bit frustrated or, not experiencing the results that they want, what's probably missing is one of these three things or a combination thereof. It's that awareness that you mentioned. It's the mental strength and willingness to do hard things. And it's the consistency to apply these things 6 days a week and then be aware enough of what's working, what's not working to make adjustments and stay with it long enough to get that result. I think we're in a society where people are weaker than ever mentally.
We've gotten a bit soft. I'm always suggesting take data on yourself. Like, where's your data? Where's your self data? Is there such a thing as incurable disease, or do you think that all disease or most disease is curable, whether it be at some point or whatever?
I believe that just about everything is curable. Now, it depends on where that individual is in the timeline. If you catch it early enough and you're willing to do the work, to go all in and say, if it requires moving, I'll move. If it requires coffee enemas, I'll do coffee enemas. If it requires drinking 3 to 5, big glasses of green juice every single day, I'll do it. Right. Then I believe that anything is possible. Now, in certain situations, let's take like cancer. Let's go to that extreme. When someone has gone through half a dozen rounds of chemotherapy and had radiation really run their body down and it's hard for them to get out of bed. These are more challenging situations. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but what I look for, I mean, we've had people that were in wheelchairs and couldn't walk because their body was in such a rough spot. What I look for is not like, hey, what have you done? How worn down is your body? I look to see if they have the fighting spirit, if their belief and faith is still there, that they can get better. And an example would be, I had just because of my story, we've had a lot of people, I say Lyme disease, but what we're really talking about with Lyme disease, it's not just this infection from the Borrelia burgdorferi bacteria. It never occurs in isolation. Usually there's a lot of things going on. That the foundation of it is an immune system that's not working properly, and mitochondria that aren't producing energy efficiently. So I was working with a girl, Nikki, and we'd helped her with her Lyme disease. And she said, my brother Frank is in a really rough spot. He's had to shut down his business. He's moved back in with our parents, and he's lost the ability to walk. He can only get around on crutches, and I'm worried he's going to die. She said, he had a situation occur last night where he went to the bathroom and he couldn't get himself up off the toilet. His body was in so much pain. So in the middle of the night, he's calling for his parents, and they came in, and his dad went and got a wheelchair from the garage, and they got him off the toilet into a wheelchair, but like just trying to push him back to his bedroom, the pain of the wheels of the wheelchair hitting the grout in between the tiles on the bathroom floor was sending this shockwave of pain through his body.
Gosh.
And he was like, just leave me in here. It's too much. I'm going to sleep in the bathroom tonight. So this was the night before Frank and I talked, and Nikki said, can you help him? And I said, honestly, I don't know. I need to kind of see where he's at. Does he believe that he can get better?
Yeah.
And Frank and I got on the phone the next day, and we talked, and he had that warrior spirit, that belief that there was a way for him to get better. It just wasn't in his awareness, right? He didn't have those tools yet. So we got started and applying some of the things that I'd done myself, and figuring out what was affecting him. He'd had a surgery where they removed his colon, and they stretched out his small intestine to make it his colon. Now, like for the listeners that aren't familiar, like the small intestine is typically a pretty sterile environment.
Yeah.
Not something that you want to turn into a colon.
No.
And this had sent him spiraling and created a level of inflammation that's probably hard for any of us to imagine.
Yeah.
But he was doing the work. We started where we could, and we'd get him out in the sun in the morning on the wet grass, and charging up his body, with electrons and voltage, which is many times where the medical establishment and even just our predominant belief system is that like we're this bag of chemical reactions, but we're also electromagnetic beings. And oftentimes the chemical reactions are dictated by our electromagnetic environments and the amount of voltage or electricity and electrons in our body. So we had to start literally charging Frank back up, because his redox status, which is that voltage, it was low. And as we started building on that, we got him moving again, and we got him putting the right foods and nutrients in his body to address his deficiencies. We started assisting his immune system and getting better at recognizing, okay, these are Frank's cells. Don't attack them. These are foreign invaders. These are what we want to kind of reduce to bring the body back into balance. A big misconception is that, like the Louis Pasteur, who is famous for the germ theory. What a lot of people don't know is that, like on his deathbed, he said the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. So we're not going in and trying to kill all of these infections. What causes the issues is when these these bacteria or viruses or parasites or fungal infections reach levels that become problematic for the body. And really what we need to do is just bring things back into homeostasis and balance. And as I mentioned, help the immune system better recognize, what are things that need to be addressed and what are things that need to be left alone. so Frank started making progress, and I invited him to come to our event, the Ultimate Biohacking Experience.
Mm-hmm.
He was still on crutches, so he was a little bit hesitant. He hadn't even driven a car in almost a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Frank, just come. You're going to get more out of it than you're going to get at home. Frank came, and it was the first day of the event, and he came rolling up in his car as we were getting on the bus. And we all headed to the beach at Lake Michigan. And like one of the things that we were doing was like a planking competition.
Okay.
And so Frank had thrown down his crutches, and he was doing the plank with everybody. And then some of the guys started dropping off, and we're 3 minutes in, 4 minutes in, 5 minutes in, and Frank's still in it.
Wow.
And then it's like 7, 8 minutes in, and there's like only 3 guys left, and one of them's Frank. Then it gets down to the last 2 guys, and at like the 9-minute mark, the last guy dropped off, and Frank planked for 10 minutes and beat everybody there. And I think it was a huge moment for him because, we talked afterwards, and he said that moment made me realize that I wasn't as fragile as I had started to believe I was. I was so used to my body hurting and things breaking and muscles pulling. And when I did that, I was like, you know what? I can push myself. I can give myself these little bursts of stress that are necessary for the body to adapt, as long as it's not too much. A couple months later, he was running on the beach in Mexico. He sent me a video of him going for his first run. And, it's just a matter of having the right process and the underlying belief system, the mental strength and fortitude, the awareness to be honest with yourself and see what's working and what's not working, and the consistency to be able to make little tweaks. The difference between tweaking and constantly starting over. Right.
Yeah. Not all change has to be big to equal or to equate to something. Sometimes in my opinion, it's the summation of all the little bits that add up to something great.